You open your closet. It's full. Not messy, not chaotic, just full. Shirts with tags still on them, shoes you wore once, a jacket that looked amazing under store lighting but somehow feels wrong every time you put it on. And the weird part? You don't even like half of it. But you bought it. You were excited about it. You imagined a version of yourself wearing it, more confident, more put together, more successful. Now it just sits there. And this isn't just about clothes. It's the kitchen gadget you used twice, the productivity app subscription you forgot about, the expensive gym membership you felt guilty canceling, the course you swore would change everything. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of what we buy, we don't actually want. And that's not because you're irresponsible, it's not because you lack discipline, it's because the system is designed to make you buy things you don't even like. Today, I want to break down what I call the spending trap, why we buy things that don't even align with who we are, and how to quietly step out of it without becoming extreme, cheap, or obsessive. Because this isn't about deprivation, it's about awareness, and once you see this clearly, you can't unsee it. Most people think overspending is a math problem. Spend less than you earn, that's it. And technically, that's true. But if money were purely logical, credit card debt wouldn't exist. Yet, in the United States alone, credit card balances surpassed $1.1 trillion in 2023, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. That's not a budgeting issue, that's psychology. We've been taught that buying something is a reward, a relief, a small moment of control in a world that feels unstable. Long day at work? You deserve it. Stressed about money? A small treat won't hurt. Feeling behind in life? Upgrade something. But here's what nobody explains clearly. You're not buying the object, you're buying the identity attached to it. The version of you who cooks healthy meals, the version who wakes up at 5 a.m., the version who looks sharp at meetings, the version who finally has it together. And the system knows this. A 2022 report from McKinsey found that companies using personalized digital advertising increased conversion rates by over 20%. Why? Because they're not selling products anymore. They're selling micro-identities tailored specifically to you. Scroll long enough and it feels like the algorithm understands your insecurities better than you do. And here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. You didn't decide to want most of what you want. It was planted, slowly, repeatedly, emotionally. The spending trap isn't about stupidity, it's about exposure. Let's go deeper. There are 3 psychological forces working quietly in the background every time you tap Buy Now. First, there's dopamine anticipation. Studies in behavioral neuroscience show that dopamine spikes before you receive a reward, not after. The anticipation of the package arriving often feels better than owning the thing itself. That's why the waiting feels exciting, and then it arrives and it's just normal. Second, there's social comparison. A 2023 study published in the Journal of Consumer Research found that exposure to curated social media lifestyles significantly increased dissatisfaction with personal possessions, not because your things changed, but because your perception did. You were content, then you saw someone else's version, and suddenly yours felt insufficient. Third, there's frictionless spending. One-click purchases, buy now, pay later, auto-renew subscriptions. The system has removed the pain of paying. Behavioral economists have shown that when payment is delayed or abstracted, like with credit cards, people spend more than when paying cash. In fact, research from MIT found that people were willing to pay up to 100% more when using credit instead of cash. Double. Not because they're reckless, because the emotional cost is hidden. So when you look at your bank statement and feel confused, why did I buy this? It's not because you're broken, it's because you were nudged, repeatedly, and the nudges are sophisticated. The trap deepens when spending becomes emotional regulation. You had a rough week, you order something. It feels like forward movement, like progress. But here's the quiet irony. Sometimes we spend because we feel behind financially, which puts us further behind financially. That's not weakness, that's stress behavior. When money feels unstable, we reach for something tangible, something that feels like control. And companies know this. Global e-commerce surpassed $6 trillion in 2023. That growth didn't happen because human needs suddenly doubled. It happened because human triggers were optimized. The system is not neutral, it is engineered, and that can make you feel angry. It should, a little. But here's the turning point. Understanding the mechanism doesn't make you powerless, it makes you strategic. When you realize you're buying identities, not objects, something shifts. You start asking a different question. Not, can I afford this, but who am I trying to become through this purchase? That question alone has saved me more money than any budgeting app ever did. Because once you separate the fantasy version of yourself from your real habits, clarity shows up. You don't need the $300 fitness tracker, you need a 20-minute walk. You don't need the $800 productivity course, you need a calendar and 2 focused hours. You don't need a new wardrobe, you need 3 outfits you actually feel good in. The moment you see that, the pressure drops. Now let's talk about what to do about it. Not extreme solutions, not delete every app and live in the woods. Real, practical shifts you can start this week. The first tactic is what I call the 72-hour identity pause. Here's what it is. Any non-essential purchase over a certain number you choose, maybe $50, maybe $100, sits for 72 hours before you buy it. No exceptions. Why it works is simple. Dopamine fades. The emotional spike drops. The fantasy version of you cools down. After 3 days, ask yourself one question. If this arrived right now, would it genuinely improve my daily life next week? Not your future life, not your aspirational life. Next week. If the answer is vague, it's identity spending. Implementation is easy. Add the item to your cart, leave it, set a reminder in your phone for 3 days later. In my experience, about half of those purchases lose their emotional charge by day 2. Expected outcome? You don't feel deprived, you feel deliberate. And even if this cuts just $200 a month of unnecessary spending, that's $2,400 a year. Invested at a 7% average return, that's over $33,000 in 10 years, from simply waiting. The second tactic is friction reintroduction. The system removed friction from spending. You need to put some back. Here's how. Delete saved card details from online stores. Turn off one-click purchases. Remove buy now, pay later accounts if possible. Use a separate debit card for discretionary spending with a fixed weekly transfer. Why this works is backed by behavioral economics. When payment feels immediate and tangible, spending drops. Even small increases in friction reduce impulse behavior significantly. How to implement it this week? Log into your top 3 shopping platforms and remove auto-saved payment methods. It takes maybe 10 minutes. Then decide on a weekly flex amount, let's say $75. Transfer that into a separate account every Monday. When it's gone, it's gone. Expected outcome? You still get to spend, but now it's conscious, contained. You're no longer reacting, you're choosing. The third tactic goes deeper. It's identity alignment budgeting. Instead of categorizing money by expense, rent, food, subscriptions, create one category called Future Me. This isn't abstract investing talk. It's specific. Maybe Future Me is debt-free. Maybe Future Me owns a small apartment. Maybe Future Me has 6 months of expenses saved. Whatever that image is, attach a number. If you're carrying $10,000 in credit card debt at 22% interest, paying that down isn't just responsible, it's a guaranteed 22% return on your money. You won't find that in the stock market. Implementation? Calculate the minimum you need for survival each month, then automate even $100 into debt payoff or an emergency fund before discretionary spending begins. Automation matters. According to a 2021 Vanguard study, automatic enrollment in savings plans increased participation rates to over 90% compared to voluntary systems. Why? Because it removes the decision fatigue. Expected outcome? You stop funding fantasy identities and start funding stability. And stability feels better than any package at your door. The final tactic is environmental awareness. Audit your digital environment. Unfollow accounts that trigger unnecessary comparison. Unsubscribe from promotional emails. Turn off push notifications from shopping apps. This isn't about isolation, it's about exposure control. If advertising works through repetition, reducing repetition weakens the urge. Implementation can start tonight. Here's what I want you to understand. The spending trap isn't a personal flaw. It's a design feature of modern capitalism. But once you see it, you're not trapped in it the same way. You start noticing when a purchase is about insecurity instead of utility. You start noticing when boredom is disguised as need. And something subtle happens. You don't feel restricted. You feel powerful because you're no longer buying to become someone. You're building someone. That's different. If this resonated with you, you're not alone in this. Most of us were never taught how these systems work. We were just told to budget better. But now you understand the mechanism, and understanding gives you leverage. You don't need to overhaul your entire life tomorrow. Just try one tactic this week. Pause for 72 hours. Reintroduce friction. Fund future you first. Clean your environment. Small shifts, quiet control. That's how you step out of the spending trap. This is Next Invests, and we're not here to feel guilty about money. We're here to understand it. And once you understand it, you move differently.